How the hell's everybody doing? Back here, Man Cave Sports, with our second edition of Puck Wild. Got my colleagues here, Brian and Brett, here to talk about the last week of the Minnesota Wild. A lot going on in the last week. Last week we did see the temporary return of Kaprizov, which was very short-lived. We'll talk about that today. Talk about their performance the last two games. We will want to get out of here a little bit early because they will be on in a half hour as well. Absent Gary this week, he is tied up with his daughter's hockey team, so the three of us should be able to shake and bake. Uh, with that, real quickly, Wild losers to Utah last Thursday 4-0 in a game they, let's be honest, looked like crap,
Yeah.
and came out with a win Sunday night against the Blackhawks. However, they did not look that great. The head coach ripped them up, shred them a new one on Monday in some of the publications and some of the coverage. So we'll start with that. Brian, I'll start with you. Just give us a synopsis of the last week, the last two games of the Wild, and maybe even what you think about tonight's matchup versus the Maple Leafs.
Well, you know, that was after the 3-1 victory over Cali, and we're coming back home. We're playing the Utah Hockey Club. I still think they should call them the Storm and Mormons, Utah Storm and Mormons. It'd be great. But anyways, I digress and I move along. I was expecting at home against Utah, we get our guys back, we get Spurge back, we get
Yeah.
Kaprizov back. I was just expecting just fire and just rah, let's go. And it's just they're dogging it out there, and obviously Kaprizov, as we know now, is not where he should be. It's just it just no want to. It seems like the effort is lacking, and it seems like the toughness is gone too. Like at Calgary when that dude punched Fleury in the face, nobody did anything about it. I mean, it seems we're soft.
You're good.
It seems like uh, we're going through the doldrums of a long season, but it's halfway through. I just love to see him come back a little bit. And as Mike said, they won at Chicago, but that game was a kind of it wasn't like eye pleasing to the to me at all. It just got to be tough. Hockey's hockey, and it's all effort and it's all being dominant and protecting your players. And I don't see that right now. But, what do I know, Mr. Brett?
Um, yeah, I mean, pretty much we're in a funk and yeah, the Utah game was a big letdown and I don't know, some of the guys been out for a while or a month and we were kind of gelling before that and yeah, they don't look the same. Gustafson, I don't know, one day he's average, the next day he's kind of dog shit like it was last year and when you don't got the goaltending, and our defense hasn't been doing what they usually do. Yeah, I just think it's the long season. I mean, there's hills and valleys through the whole year. Um, we were 4-6 in the last 10. Not not that great.
Could be
Um,
worse.
Hopefully we can. I mean, we're playing Toronto. They're 5-5 in their last 10, but they kind of been on a roll. They're now in first place in the Atlantic. Um, they had jumped over the Florida Panthers. And they got weapons. They got guys who can then score. And usually when we play there, we don't fare very well. So we'll see.
No.
Hopefully the guys are a little rested and can come out and we can get a 2-game winning streak going from the Chicago win.
No doubt, no doubt. We touched a little bit on Kaprizov's injury. Obviously, I believe he's going to have surgery on Friday, and they're saying 4 weeks, lower body, and you're thinking 5, 6 weeks reevaluation in 4 weeks. And you guys will have to verse me on this, as we know I'm not a great hockey mind, which is why I have you guys here. What and I know in the NHL they designate these injury. They don't get as specific as like the NFL, who will give you an injury update on the damn scoreboard about the minute they get the guy in the locker room.
Yeah.
It can Brian, anything you can tell me about Kaprizov's injury that you know of, or something that they're withholding? Obviously,
Well,
obviously it's worse than they first thought.
Well, I was listening to Lou Nanny yesterday on the radio, and I'm a huge Louis guy. I always have been. That guy's hockey, and you gotta love him. He was basically saying that Kaprizov hasn't really looked himself in 2 months. When he came back, he's a little slow. It's a lower body injury, and they do not specify. But what Louis was saying that he thinks it is it's going to be sports hernia or meniscus. But he doesn't remember Kaprizov getting hit in the knee in the last couple months. So it could be, it's in a good way to look at it. But I was listening to Mike Russo on the radio today, and he said he talked to Kaprizov, and everybody's top secret. It's you don't tell anybody, because the reason they do that is for targeting purposes. It's a physical game. But he's asked Kaprizov, he's like, have you ever had anything like this before? And Kaprizov said to him, yes, 2 years ago. And that was the hip and the hamstring issue that
Hamstring.
he had. So I was kind of leaning meniscus or sports hernia just because of the timetable being out. Russo did say it will be 6 weeks. They're going to reevaluate him in 4. But he said he asked Kaprizov, and they were trying to get Kaprizov not to answer the question, but Russo kind of snuck in the back way and said, have you ever had this before? And he said, yes, 2 years ago. So
Yep.
I'm guessing it's going to be something very similar to that, but it's not long term. He's going to be back, which is good and which is bad, because we have no salary cap whatsoever. So if we're going to go get some help, we have to trade salary for salary. We can't say, hey, we'll give you a 1 and a 2. Give me a Joe Bag of Donuts or whoever his name is. So Brodeen is on long-term IR. I think they might be able to get some relief from that. But in regards to the Thrill, it looks like it's something that same thing he had a couple years ago, Mr. Brett.
Yeah, that's basically what I heard too, was hamstring, same injury he had 2 years ago. My guess is, I mean, because I don't know of any surgeries that you do on your hamstring. My guess is he got the hernia or pulled his groin too.
Hmm.
Those can take some surgery. The one good thing we do have, I mean, he's slated to miss maybe 10 games. That's kind of what Billy said. Um, and we talked about it last week. Starting here in a couple weeks, February 12th through the 20th is the Four Nations play face-off.
Yes, sir.
There's no NHL games during that time.
Hmm.
So that's going to save us, or save him from not missing too many extra games. So that's kind of a good news, bad news out of the whole thing. Um, yeah, we'll see. Hopefully, whatever surgery he's having, he comes back 100%. Because, yeah, you could definitely tell he was, I think
Right.
Billy had said he's like 60%. You take him at 60% more than other people, but when he's not controlling the puck and doing his awesome skating and skating hard and fast and making plays, something's not right.
Yeah. Yeah. On to the next topic. I read about this a couple days ago. I know Bettman, I believe he was in town last week, and there is rumblings now. The Xcel Energy Center, which is a 25-year-old building, if I'm not mistaken, much like every sports arena uh, or every sports team, they generally at that point want upgrades and or a new stadium.
Right.
Pretty typical in the industry. So, and as you know, Minnesota's been a hotbed for years with this. We got new stadiums for the Vikings, for the Gophers. Twins got a new stadium about 15 years ago. Timberwolves are still in the Target Center. I believe they have done some renovations over the
Yep.
years to that, and there is rumblings, regardless of the ownership mess that they're currently in, of doing something different and or renovating that stadium again. So looks like the Wild will be looking for some type of arrangement like the Wilfs did, like the Polads did, where there is a portion of public funding as well as private funding. What are your guys' thoughts on that? Anything you've heard or read about that in the last week? Because, like I said, this kind of popped up the other day, and I actually did read about it as well. Brian?
You know what? I'm going to start this off by saying Bettman is a complete boob. I mean, the worst commissioner in professional sports. Everybody hates him. Everybody knows that he's a complete boob. Uh, they gutted our stars because Norm Green tried this thing about what 30 years ago, 25 years ago, and it's it's still fresh. I wish we were called the North Stars. I'm still pissed off about it. So you're gonna go to a jilted and jaded uh, uh, what's the word community that's you've already fucked us, and now you're gonna threaten us like that. I mean, have a little tact. Do you think he's got like some advisors that might say, hey, maybe that's not the right way to go about this in this situation? I even heard Minneapolis. We'll move them out to Minneapolis. What? Dude, talk to your advisors. It's the wrong way to go about it. And especially right now, after he let this happen before, I think it's just outrageous to threaten this community. Brett.
Yeah, I don't see it going anywhere. Yeah, Xcel would upgrade it, or a new stadium would probably be in the cards. I don't know. Yeah, it's always going to take public money. I mean, all the other stadiums that our teams got here in this state, they had to fight long and hard to get it. And I don't know I don't know if you can do the sports gambling, approve that in our state, and have funds go for that and pay for all team stadiums.
It's too
That'd
good of
be
an idea.
that'd be pretty easy to me, because there's millions and millions counting and waiting to do the stuff legally here, and I think that would be something that hopefully the state representatives can look at.
Well, I agree with you on that. I mean, we don't do politics here on Man Cave Sports, but what I hear from my sources is that that's not even going to be an option. It's not even going to go up for a vote. And for some reason, it ain't going to happen. But who knows? Stranger things have happened. Mike?
Yeah, and I think the biggest thing is moving them out of St. Paul would just be bad for the Twin Cities and just the city itself. I mean, the XL obviously it hosts the Wild, but hosts a slew of other things. I've been there for concerts, all kinds of stuff. So I mean, it would be bad for the city and just bad for the Twin Cities as a whole. So hopefully it's something that they get worked out one way or another, and hopefully the NHL and Bettman don't collude in some sort of threat to move the team just to get their way. But
Yeah,
That
because
ain't going to work.
they got the nice Tria practice facility, it's
yeah,
still fairly new.
yeah. So we'll see what happens. Gentlemen, with that, I'll see if you guys got anything in closing. Brian, anything else you want to talk about with the Wild before we meet next week?
It just there's highs and lows to every season, and hockey is like it's like baseball. It's a dragging sport, and you got to ride the waves, as Mr. Brett said. It's I mean, things can turn around real quickly in hockey too. We're gonna have to somebody's gonna have to step up, and obviously, you think it's gonna be Boldy. But I mean, if he's targeted, just somebody's got to step up. If we're going through this whole Kirill and Brodin being out for an extended time, and nobody steps up, it's going to be kind of a slogfest to the end. But I still feel very good just because of our hot start about making the playoffs. And it's a marathon, not a sprint. Mr. Brett.
Yeah, so the one good thing, I mean, they have the best record on the road in the NHL. 18-5-3. 5 losses. That's pretty impressive. Looks like the next closest, Edmonton has 7, the Jets have 9, but 5 losses. We now have, counting Chicago's game Sunday, we got Toronto, we got Montreal, Ottawa, and Boston all on the road in the next week. It's going to be a tough sledding, but this is where, you're out of town and the guys are all together. That's how our kids, when we go to out of town tournaments, they, they, I mean, the communication and everything, and then you see them playing the ice. They change their game. So that's what I'm hoping to see tonight.
Nice, nice. Well, gentlemen, that'll wrap up another edition of Puck Wild. Well, I'll be watching the Wild here in about 15 minutes. and we will see you guys again next week. Thanks for watching, everybody.
So yeah,
Appreciate
repping.
it. See you guys.
We're